Levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera, wow. Levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. No, no, y es que hay mucho sentimiento, lo grito al viento, de ser latino nunca me arrepiento. Lo digo desde la Suiza centroamericana, rebota en Colombia y en Dominicana y yo.
Welcome to the 2023 Revolucion 30-Day Digital Festival brought to you by Todo Wafi. Welcome to the Indigenous Latinidad panel, and I am your moderator, Sebastian Rea. And my guests today are the incredible Sisa Quispe, who is an Indigenous Quechua-Amara artist, actress, director, writer, producer, content creator, and activist. She's producer of Vive el Quechua and director and writer of her new short film, Her Last Wish. Next, we have Miguel Duran, who is an accomplished writer and director from Los Angeles. He directed Immigrant Voices of America, a documentary series that has won Best Documentary at other festivals across the US. He's the head of production at Avenida Studios and creator of Viva el Rock. Jalmer Caceres, he's a writer and director with a focus on the first generation Latinx experience. He's had his work acquired by HBO Max with the film Mass Avenue. And he is the selected writer-director of Lena Waithe's Indeed Rising Voices program of I believe last year, correct? And finally, but not last, Sofia Ayerdi, the producer, writer, director from Mexico. She's the founder of Zanate Films, promoting films in Tecpan de Galena, Mexico. Sorry for messing that up. But she is also the director of Na Savi, which was selected through the Netflix-sponsored La Leaf Inclusion Fellowship, which 3 of our filmmakers today are also part of that fellowship. So welcome, everybody. I hope everyone is doing great. And could you guys quickly just introduce yourselves, say hello, and maybe a quick fact about yourself, and we'll get started.
I guess I'll start. Hi, everybody. Imainalian Kakushenkichis, Nyokastimi Sisa Quispe. My name is Sisa. I am Peruvian, but I am based in New York City. A quick fact about me. I am a cat lover. Yes.
Hey, I'm happy to go second. So my name's Jalmer Caceres, and I'm a Salvadoran-born filmmaker, but I grew up here in the States. Fun fact about me is that I've lived all over Los Angeles, north, south, east, and west.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, everybody. My name is Sofia. And I'm very excited to be here with such talented people. And a fact about me, I was in China during the COVID outbreak. That's a fun fact.
Hi, everyone. This is Miguel Duran. I'm a writer-director. Fun fact, I play the Mesoamerican ball game, which is what the Aztecs and Maya play, where you hit a solid rubber ball with your hips. I've been playing for 4 years, and I've competed twice internationally.
Whoa, very cool. I'd love to learn more about that. So, hey guys, I have some quick questions. The first thing I wanted to ask the group here, and we can all go answering one by one, is that language and culture play a significant role in all your works. Whether it's preserving indigenous languages, exploring first-generation Latinx experiences, or keeping our heritage present in our storytelling. How do you balance the preservation of culture with the universal appeal of your storytelling? In other words, how do you balance your work from becoming like too Latino or too indigenous or too cultural to really be mainstream or marketable? Anybody can go first.
Okay, I'll chomp at the bit. So, I think the way I see it, to be honest with you, I don't think there's such a thing as being like too Latino or too culturally specific, because I do think that cultural specificity is universal. So the more culturally specific you can be, and it coming from an authentic place, the more it's going to be accepted. Like, we never hear such a thing as like, this film's too Irish or this film's too English. It just gets embraced. So I feel the same way when I'm putting together my work. I feel like my process is just about being as authentic as I can be, you know and then I feel like that will have a universal appeal that'll reach a broad audience.
Quickly, just to add to that, I'd love to just say, I love that you've had that experience, but honestly, I've had separate experience from that. People have told me sometimes, like, can you lower the Spanish, like maybe add them English, make them more Spanglish. I know what you mean in terms of like being representative of your culture, including it and being authentic, but at the same time, I've had to deal with people telling me, or like studios, other distributors or acquisition people being like, oh, is there a way to maybe like generalize this moment or like tone it down a little bit? So I'm just wondering if like you've thought of that, or have you ever had that situation, or how do you balance those kind of things in the industry today?
You want me to respond, or I'm sorry, we're kicking it around?
Yeah,
I,
sure.
I think, fortunately, I haven't had the experience of someone telling me you're too brown, at least not yet. I am waiting for it. At some point, it'll happen. But I think, I honestly feel like I would I would probably argue my stance, because again, if I'm going to put something into a film, then I'm incredibly intentional. So I would argue I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to shove my culture down people's throats. I'm here because this is my voice. And as a matter of fact, this is why you hired me. So that's the approach I think I would take if I do cross that, when I do cross that bridge.
And if I could add to that, I don't necessarily choose my stories based on like my ethnicity as well. I choose my stories based on concepts or ideas or themes that I want to talk about. And if it's not inherently Latino or Indigenous, I bring that element in to add a different perspective. So, for example, like my short film that I'm here premiering in New York. Woo! It's
Yeah,
about
actually,
death.
yeah. Can you talk about your film and tell us when the premiere is and when we can see it?
Oh, yeah. So my short film is called Death in Training, and it's a reimagining take of the Grim Reaper. So when people think of Grim Reaper, they think of some scary dude with a skeleton, right? Something scary. And so I thought, what if we kind of like subvert that genre and make it funny? And so I thought, what if the Grim Reaper was actually a 20-year-old trainee, and his first day on the job, he has to take a soul, but he takes the wrong one, and so his job is to return it. And so, but in that film, I mean, it's about the afterlife and this and that, but I added some indigenous elements, like something related to my, Aztec Mexica background, leading to like doing some ritual aspects of it, connecting certain elements, making my whole design of it symbolic, that signifies like elements of like the afterlife. For example, there's something called a soul jar, which is kind of like a glass receptacle that collects a soul. In the soul jar, there's these two little dogs, the Sholo dogs, and those are the ancestors believe that dogs would carry the souls to the underworld. And so I thought, well, let's make that into an actual thing and make like let's say this is a glass and the handles, or these two little dogs, and they're literally carrying the soul to where it needs to go. So little elements like that, I bring it in to add in some of my background, but not too in your face. But I can if I want to, but I choose not to because then I think it'll distract from the story. So like there's so many ideas and topics that I want to discuss, and so I bring in my perspective in there so it could be part of something bigger. And that's kind of what my approach has been so far, and I've been successful at it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love that. And yes, I agree. I feel like we have to walk a fine line in terms of our representation and the extent to which we're allowed almost to express ourselves through our culture. Sofia or Sisa, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I do agree. There's or at least I've felt it, a little bit of that pressure of, wanting to tell your stories with your culture and very specific things, but also the pressure of having a marketable story, whatever that means, or something that in the future someone would like to buy and sell and distribute. And as I see it right now, and what I've done so far is, just concentrating in the emotion. Like, that has to come first. Whatever the story is about, however culturally specific it is, if the emotion or the humanness of it, that's what is going to connect with an audience, whatever the story is. So I really try to connect or concentrate on those stories when I do my films. And the recent film I did was very specific culturally. Like, the film is called Nasabi, and it was about forced child marriages happening in my state in Mexico, which is Guerrero, in the mountain region. So it was very specific to a very specific region in Mexico. And I think, the conversations I had with my creative team and with myself from the beginning was to, close that gap between, them, indigenous people, us, non-indigenous, and just see it as, okay, human beings, we go through different problems, we go to different situations that we have to handle. And that was like a through line that I thought that I wanted to create to connect with an audience. And I think that's how we have to play around in this industry, like having that emotion, but at the same time feeding people with our stories, our specificities. That thing that you mentioned, Miguel, of the soul carrier, it's in the details or in the subtle things that we sometimes get to portray those things. So it's like they're not even noticing that it's a difference. It's just another story about a human being.
For me, I think the best stories are unique and universal. So, for example, in my film, Her Last Wish, there's this struggle of identity, right? Like, who am I? In this context of going to the Andes and looking for the house of the grandmother. And there were like jokes, that only people from the Andes will understand. And I remember like a professor telling me, Sisa, like that joke, like that didn't really, like, I don't understand why she's laughing like that. I don't think why it's that funny. Or like another part with he's like chewing the coca leaf, like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's okay. Like, you understand that it's funny, or like you're seeing her smiling, so you're understanding that it's somehow funny, right? Like, you don't need to understand every single joke, because that's something from the Andes, and that's fine. Maybe it's a good opportunity for you to learn what's the joke about, or like why it's funny. That happened to me. When I see some films, I don't understand why people are laughing. I just go on Google, what's funny about that, or so I think it's important for us to just have like a very someone mentioned about like being intentional, right? So once you have very clear your intentions, and there is a very thin line, right, of like how much can you let people affect their comments, right? But I think you need to stay truthful to the message and the intentions that you're putting into your film and whatever you're doing. And for me, like, I don't separate like being indigenous with story, like it's part of who am I. I'm a Quechua-Amara woman. Right now I find joy in doing films. I don't know what's going to be in the future, because we're humans, we're always changing. So yeah, this the reason I'm doing films is because I love to uplift my people. I love to share stories that they're not in the screen. We need to decolonize the screen, and at the same time, we're whole humans. We have like all different stories. There's different type of indigenous people. I was not born and raised in the Andes, right? But I'm still indigenous. I was born and raised in the city. So that experience is also important, and it's important to tell these stories.
Cool, thank you. Actually, Sisa, to piggyback off what you said, I'd love for you to elaborate more about your short film, Her Last Wish, which you just completed. And tell us more about it. I know explores the journey of an indigenous Peruvian American woman. And can you tell us about the inspiration behind that particular story and how your own indigenous identity influenced its creation?
Yes, so I was born and raised in Peru, in a very small city called Tacna. It's desert city, but my grandparents are from the Andes. One of From the side of my mom, they're from Cusco, and then from the side of my dad, they're from Puno, which is the Altiplano. So that's why I'm a Quechua and Aymara, right? So I found this connection between not only indigenous people going to the cities, but also people just migrating in general, right? It doesn't only happen people moving from the Andes or like from their little town to a city. It happens also from um, Peruvian people moving to the US, or like Mexican people moving to the US, and because of assimilation, I found that your identity gets affected, right? So who are we? So this girl is struggling between identities. Like, she doesn't feel Peruvian enough, she doesn't feel American enough, and she's going to fulfill this promise that she made to her grandmother. And then she finds out that her identity goes beyond nationalities, that her identity goes beyond these constructive ideas, right, that we have been taught. So the inspiration of my film is just a combination of my own experience, living and growing up in the city, not knowing my indigenous language, not knowing the reason why I was never taught, myself growing up, trying to like distance myself from my indigeneity, and then like coming to the US, and also see that happened, with the struggle of like Peruvian Americans, of like Mexican Americans, of not feeling enough. And then at the end, why are we feeling not enough, like, when we are more than, in her case, Urpi is an indigenous woman, right? And who we are goes beyond these constructive identities.
Thank you. Miguel, as head of production at Avenida Studios, very interesting studio based out in LA. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. You're empowering independent filmmakers to tell their stories. So what role do you play specifically in making sure that diverse filmmakers are getting the chance to finally tell their stories?
Absolutely, thank you. So I'm the head of production at Avenida Studios. We are how do I make it short? Because it's a long answer. So as the head of production, I'm pretty much in charge of like initiating the projects that I'm working on. Sorry, managing the projects from beginning to very end. So I get to see how they start and how they end up. But more than that, what we do at a studio, we've created 3 avenues. We create like an ecosystem that is the hardest part for a lot of us who are Latino or Indigenous is access to capital, access to money. You know, I'm sure a lot of us have worked on many films for free or ask people to donate their times because we don't have the financial means. So we've created our own crowdfunding platform similar to like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all that cool stuff. Ours is a little different because we provide with you with coaching. My boss, Fanny Grande, she is world renowned as a crowdfunding coach. She's like I think the number one, and she knows how to raise money. And a fun fact, I actually hired Avenida in 2018 before they hired me. I hired them to help me raise money for my docuseries, the Immigrant Voices one, because that project, like I feel like the community can be a part of it, And so, and I'll be honest, it was hard to raise money because I'm not used to asking people for money, People like, buscar un trabajo, get a real job. I'm like, no, it's not. That's not how it works. It's a little different. And so I followed the coaching. Every day you got to call 3 people or do this or do a funny video. And you know what? It worked. Every time I had a sign that says, give me $200 and I'll dance, and people give me $200. I was like, what? And then little by little, people gave me more and more, $1,000. I was like, oh my God, this actually works. And so I raised almost $20,000 for my project. And I was like, wow, I'm a believer. ¿Verdad? And so when we work with people who want to fund their projects, we give them like, you need at least 2-3 weeks to prep the project, get it ready to launch. And then every day you get some kind of like email or a call or something, so that you're constantly moving, because, you know, the beginning of the campaign is most exciting. And then at the end, in the middle is the hardest part, because everyone's like, well, you've been doing this for like 20 dumb days. Don't you have your money yet? Like, no, it takes a lot of work. And so we help individuals that want money for their project to raise their funds. And then right now we are physically moving into a new studio space, so that we can provide more access to filmmakers to have bigger spaces and all that stuff. And finally, we are in the process of launching our own online streamer. Think of like a Latino Netflix kind of thing, you know, where we're highlighting all the American Latino experience in the United States, you know, because a lot of us have films that unfortunately have not been picked up because it might be too specific, right? It's too Latino, too this and too that. Where we're like, nah, our stories are amazing. You want to put it online so everybody can access it, you know? And so we're creating like a little ecosystem where everybody can come, raise their money, shoot it in our studio if they wish, and then distribute it on our platform. And it's all like within one system. So like everybody we get to grow together, you know? And so that's kind of more or less the avenue, the process that we're building. And I'm just like a small part of it, and I'm helping the filmmakers along the way, because aside of head of production, you know, I'm a writer, director. I do all these things. Like, I know what the filmmakers are going through because I've done it myself. So if anything, I provide some of that experience, some of that coaching as well, because I'm like, I've been there, I got you, you know? And so that's kind of thing that we do. And then we try to, you know, work with Latino filmmakers, you know, whatever version of that is, so that we can show, like, you know, Latinos are from all over the world. You know, we have all our specific, you know, perspectives, and that's what we need, you know. So that's kind of more or less, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. No, that's really informative. I'm sure a lot of people want to know how they can reach out to any of the studios and maybe, you know, get your ear or some
Yeah,
help.
I'll give you guys my email, and I'll put the website where the crowdfunding platform.
Cool.
Do I put it here in the chat, or how do I do that?
I think we can do that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Sofia, can you talk about the LALIF Inclusion Fellowship program and the process, and how they helped you bring your project Nasavi to life? Tell me about how you found the LALIF program. What was it like? What doors did it open for you? Any kind of issues you may have encountered, and how you overcame those obstacles? And also Miguel and Jalmer, whoever you want to add, because I know you guys also had your films there as well. Please feel free to chime in when Sofia is finished.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I had this story of Nasavi that I really wanted to, I felt it was very important to give an audience to present to an audience. And as Miguel mentioned, there's always that situation about money, like raising money. How am I gonna get a team? Because it's expensive making films. And so what I would usually do is, you know, go online and see what programs are out there, what scholarships or funding programs were out there. And I saw LALIF, I think it was either on Instagram or through a friend. And it was LALIF and Netflix. And I applied to it, and I got in, thankfully. And, you know, the fact that it was with that name Netflix there in LALIF, it really gave me an accountability. You know, since I'm very like early, you would say, in my career, having that big name gave me credibility. And you know, because we had to crowdfund a little bit of the money. Apart from what they gave us, I crowdfunding a little bit. And having those names really opened up for a bigger audience, I would say, to come in and to believe in the story, and to believe in my ability to portray it correctly. And the story, as I said, is about the forced child marriages that are still going on in some regions in Mexico. And so I knew about this relatively recently. which was very surprising to me when I found it out. It happens usually in very reclusive areas in the mountain region, and there's not a lot of media coverage on it. I would say like none, almost none, not at all. And I was, as I decided to become a person to tell stories, it was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to find a way to get the story to other people and for people to realize like how big is this problem, how present it still is. And yeah, throughout that process of me, sharing about the story and sharing that I was going to make this short film, a lot of people came to me with the same situation. I didn't know this was happening. It's like, it's so good that you're putting it out there. And also people from other countries told me like, oh, in my country, there's also that, and there's not a lot of coverage on it either. So it was like really inspiring to me seeing the power that a film could have in like the conversation it starts. Because, we as filmmakers, we're not politicians. Like, we can't go and fight in the Congress to, change the laws or whatever. Like, our goal is usually to spark that or ignite that conversation. And I think it sort of did with this film. And I think the process was it was very good. It was very smooth. I shot in Mexico, and which is something I really wanted to do. And I got to meet a lot of great people. Miguel and Jalmer, as you said, are also part of that program. But there's also other 7 people that were joining in that group, and it was awesome, growing with them and having those problems at the same time, and like having those stressful moments at the same time. It was good, like having that group of people that were going through the same deadlines and the same problems as you. So it was good. And I think it did open a lot of doors. As I said, it gives you that credibility of, oh, this person is actually doing something. This is not just like a person that likes to film little videos. Like, she is an actual filmmaker. Because it takes a while for people to understand that. Like, you understand it yourself, but sometimes it takes a little bit more for people to get into that wave of recognizing, I guess, that you are what you say you are. So it's been good. It's been very good. I met good people, and I completely, recommend for other people to do it as well, to apply to the program.
Cool, thank you. Jalmer, now you have a very impressive career, and I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your part in the Rising Voices program, which is another awesome resource for young filmmakers and storytellers to kind of use and use to make their films. Can you tell us how that experience in particular impacted your career, and what advice you have for other aspiring Latinx Indigenous filmmakers to look for similar opportunities, and if using the Rising Voices program helped you with your La Leaf film, your recent one?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. I also felt privileged to share a platform with so many great filmmakers. It's always great. And, you find both community and you find friendships that last, that hopefully last a very long time. And I found that in both the programs. With the Indeed Rising Voices, it also kind of, like, to speak to what Sofia was saying, it was a validation of the work, and then along with the validation of the work, there's also the fact that you're being handed a very large sum of money, which then enables you to put together a team and shoot something of high production value, but more so than that, to actually compensate people. And the beauty of that is that you can also, the inclusion goes far beyond you, so you have the power to hire now, Latinos and and African Americans and Asians. It's just an array of diversity, that now you can actually, have come and help you make your film. And so for me, that's always been important. Is like, I know for a fact that it's incredibly important for me to put brown people up on the screen, but it's also behind the scenes, like the Latino community is just now, or the American, especially Latino community, is just now coming into the the understanding that we can make films, so now we have, not just like cinematographers, but like gaffers and grips and, everything, by the way, male, female, everything, just like, so to me that was like that felt very great in both programs. It's how do I also bring my people with me, as far as the exposure goes, yeah, it was fantastic. We with that film, we premiered at Tribeca, which was amazing, an amazing experience in and of itself. But then the film would also show in theaters across the country before Nope. And so that kind of exposure, you can't pay for that kind of exposure, or you have to pay for that kind of exposure, which outside of that program, I would never afford, So for me, that was the blessing to not only have my name be part of the program and have my voice heard at such an amazing festival, but then to actually see it go out to theaters. And, it wasn't just my film, it was every filmmaker's film, across the country playing prior to the premiere of that film, or prior to the screening of that film. And so that was amazing. And as well, I think, again, the relationships you make and the doors that it opens, it completely helped with the LALIF application, because you present work, that's of a certain quality, but more so than that, like the freedom for you to tell your story the way you want is what comes with money, right? So the more money we have, the more we're able to actually tell it the way we see it in our mind's eye and in our hearts. And so you're really able to express what you're trying to say and what you're trying to share with others. And that, more than anything, is what matters, because I think Sofia is 100% right. It has to touch your heart. It has to move you in some way, shape, or form. And so for me, that's always the goal with the films. But that's what that experience was like. It was really incredible. It showed that you can be a responsible filmmaker, that you can handle deadlines, that you can handle money, that you can handle hiring people, that you can hire other collaborators, that you can be responsible with studios across the board. And so that's what that brings.
Cool. Thank you.
Can,
That was
can I
very
add
essential.
something to
Yeah,
it?
go ahead, Miguel.
I completely agree everything that Sofia and Jalmer said, but also wanted to, for those who are watching, also like, I've applied to a lot of programs for many years, never got any of them. And so I applied to LALIF last year. I didn't get it either. I had a more serious piece, and my Death in Training, the project that I submitted, it was just like, oh, let's see what happens, because that was actually the very first script I've ever written in my life, and that one was a maybe one day project, but I had a lot of heart because I put everything that I felt at that moment I was writing it, and I was like, I put in the back every year. I got a chance to add to it, and lo and behold, I got it. I was like, oh my god. I've never had any of these programs ever, and I'm so happy that it was a Latino. One is Latino, like LFI, like LALIF. I was like, oh my god. So it's like I got a yes from my own community. That was such a huge blessing. But it's also a challenge, right? These programs are meant to challenge you, and I was challenged. And so the opportunity is, okay, here's an opportunity. Are you gonna take it or not? And I took it, and I was like, let's see if I can make it happen. And thankfully I did, and so my other filmmakers, and it was such a beautiful experience. And for those who apply or unfortunately don't get accepted, do it again. Keep applying to all these other programs, because, man, I'm gonna tell you, you gotta have a thick skin. But once you get them, you hope that one starts to another one, into something bigger, kind of like initiating something like you're growing, And so just keep trucking along.
And if I could add real quick, it was also very interesting seeing, because they were all Latino stories, but they were 10, and seeing the difference in each one, like the wide range of stories to tell, whether it was comedy, full-on drama, everything in between. It was very nice seeing, the wider range of things we could tell that are still, within our culture. And yeah, I agree, Miguel. There's definitely a bunch of no's before that yes. But once you get that yes, whoever that person is, you have to take it 110% and do your best so another yes comes in the future.
Cool. Actually, Miguel, a quick question is: you said the first time you submitted, you said the piece was a little bit more serious, and that
Yes.
you like slowly genrefied it, you think, or made it more accessible? Like, how did what do you think you did that made it more?
Well, so let me backtrack. So I come from the documentary world, and I was doing that for many years. I was there for like 10, 15 years doing documentaries, and I loved it, and it was great. But if you want to be a true documentarian, you can't uh, influence the story. You got to go where the story goes, where the people go, right? So there's certain creative limitation that it has. And I always wanted to work with actors since I was a kid. Like I was blessed to know since I was 5 years old, I'm going to be a filmmaker. Um, but I shied away from it because documentary was paying more of my bills. So you got to do how you can take care of yourself. And so I moved to Europe for a bit because I was just kind of getting lost in the weeds. And so when I came back, I says, no, I need to write these stories. There's so many stories in my heart that I need to tell. And how do I do it? You start by writing it. And Death in Training was actually my very first assignment to myself. I was reading books of how to write a script. I was reading scripts, and like the best way to learn is to write one. And for some reason, I don't know why, the thought of the Grim Reaper sucking at his job came into my head, and I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious." So, so that's what I wrote, and I was developing it back over for years, just to see, you know, maybe one day I'll make it. Maybe one day I'll make the short film, right? And then when I heard of La Leaf, I had another project that was more serious, like nothing related to Death and Training, because I thought, they wanted serious projects, and so I submitted. I didn't get it, and so when the second take came around, I was like, you know what? I have this story that I've been writing for a couple of years. A ver qué pasa, So I added some more indigenous elements to it. I submitted it, and guess what? I got it. So it's like you never know, you never know. But I remember one of the people in charge for the festival, they're saying we just want a breadth of different stories, to show like we don't just do one specific story. We do all kinds of stories. And yeah, like Sophia said, all those films were amazing. Each one was totally different from the next. Almost like no connection at all. The only connections they were made by our friends. And so that was beautiful, and I was like, hell yeah, you know. And so that's what I meant. It wasn't the same story; it was just two different stories.
Cool, thank you. So next question I got for the group. I know right now we're in a strike and it's pretty tough. There's nothing shooting in this studio wise, but love to know how you guys are staying creative and productive during the strike. I know for me, I've had to find side jobs, little things I do on the side editing gigs or whatever, just to make some ends meet. How are you guys doing it? Sisa, let's start with you.
Surviving. um, right now, I'm like writing a lot. I'm working on my next short film. And it's called Unveiling Love, and it's about forgiveness between mother, daughter, and both of them dealing with the relationship with the father. So it's about healing, forgiveness. I'm also in pre-production for a documentary. It's called Yakumama, and it's about decolonizing the way we perceive water. Um, we are taught to, oh yeah, let's take care of water, like let's save, but that mindset comes from a place of we seeing water as a resource, as something that is meant to be exploitable, right? But when we change our perception of that, like as a human, as a being, right, that is alive, like we do in indigenous communities, then the whole way, everything, the way we interact with it changes. So um we are like just starting pre-production in this, looking for funding, applying for grants. So my days are basically, it's just a lot of writing, side jobs, working in small productions. Also, I recently just was shooting. I was in front of the camera again. I haven't been in front of the camera in so long. So yeah, like we're artists. We do a lot of things, and I think it's a good moment for us to just feel, like allow ourselves all these emotions, because this is how we create, right? We need to live in order to keep creating. So yeah, I'm just allowing myself to just keep like reflecting, growing, and just like keep creating and like giving voice to this untold stories.
Yeah, go ahead. Jalmer, tell me what's going on in your hood these days.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, as far as creativity goes, the same. I'm constantly working, so I constantly write, and I'm constantly, fleshing out the ideas that are kind of like, coming right behind the other that I feel like I can work towards and hopefully achieve in the near future. But the same here. I've written another short film that I'm still polishing off. I'd like to shoot it, maybe hopefully for the end of the year, but if not, early in next year. And at the same time, I'm writing my debut feature, which I also want to do independently and raise the funds for it. And I want to shoot that, hopefully either sometime late next year or the following. But I want to have that incredibly, well done and as detailed as possible. I feel like taking the step into the feature space is what's next. Yeah, I really crave it and want it, and it's like, calling me. It's been calling me for a minute, so I'm ready to chase that and make that happen. At the same time, I'm very lucky in that I mentor for a youth cinema, for the youth cinema project, which was started by James Edward Olmos, and it's connected to the Latino Film Institute family. And we go into predominantly Latino communities on the east side of LA, and we teach kids to actually write short films and to shoot them. We shoot them with the kids. So I feel like that keeps me in the creative pocket, and I love walking into a classroom and seeing a reflection of myself. Whenever I see kids, brown kids, man, ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like it. Like, I'm about to blow your mind. You don't even know. Like, so it's always a lot of fun to go on that journey with them and see them go. See their eyes light up when they actually see their work on screen, and to know that it's gonna be shown, because they show them at the end of the year at La Leaf, and that's amazing. So, yeah, that's where I try to stay, man. I try to stay just busy with my writing and planning what's next, and then at the same time, working with the kids predominantly. So that's where my world's at right now.
For me, in this moments of, let's say, slowness of the industry, it's been a lot about introspective, and going deeper in, the stories I want to tell. And it's a question that might seem simple, but sometimes, at least for me, it's like I have to go really deep and understand who I am as a creative, and what stories have spoken to me and what stories I want to put out there for them to speak to other people. So I've been taking the opportunity to really consolidate that creative soul in me, I would say. And just with that as well, I've been trying to create like very small, very like personal projects that keep me creative and are like a very quick turnaround, just to keep in that process of writing, executing, editing, in a smaller scale, and as well as everybody, continuing writing and continuing to prepare myself when it's all opened up. And it's great to hear, Jalmer, that you're approaching that jump to features. I think that's very exciting, and I think that's something that's, I would say, in the majority of people that I know minds, making that jump from short film to feature, which sometimes is like, it seems very dreadful, but it has to get there. Like, we have to get to that point. and that's super cool. That's super fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited to see your work too. I love both these guys' films. Like everyone had such a unique voice, like you guys were saying, and so I'm excited because we're all just starting our festival run. And both I know both I can speak to both their films is phenomenal. So I'm excited for all of us.
Ahora yo?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just like everyone. I'm just doing a lot of writing. Because it is slow. Uh, but my mind is still running fast. So many ideas pop into my head every day. I'm like, okay, which one do I focus on? Um, I finished writing a short that I'm also applying it with other different programs. I've my short death and training, the one I'm here in New York. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from it, and people like, where can I see more of it? Is there more? I'm like, it was just a short, but everyone keeps talking about it as a TV series, so that's what I'm working on too, developing it as a TV series. Writing the pilot, getting the show Bible, getting that ready. And just like Halmet, I also am ready to do my feature. Like I've been ready for years, but like choosing which story to do that's financially feasible. Because when I first started writing my features, I didn't write with budget in mind. I just wrote stories that I wanted to see. And then the reality of it is like, man, yeah, I don't have $20 million right now. So like my stories like this, okay, what can I shoot that's like contained that I think I could do financially well and raise the money myself, and then also within the company as well. And so I have one story I've written or I think is ready to go. Um, it's just a matter of like let's do it, like that mental check. Like for me, it's whenever work on a project, I'm always like, which one's the next one? Like I don't know, that always takes me forever. But once I figure out this is my next project, then I'm like 100% focused on that, and I don't stop until I finish it. So I'm in that plane right now where I'm like, okay, is it gonna be the TV series or is it gonna be a feature? Like I'm still not sure, but I think the feature's already done. The TV series, I'm trying to finish it. So hopefully by next year, I make a decision. It's either gonna be my feature or the TV series or otra cosa. But I just want to be ready for that part. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Guys, I'd love to know what you guys can all talk about this since we're in Hispanic Heritage Month. I'd love to know what it means for you guys with Indigenous heritage to represent yourselves and your Indigenous identity during Hispanic Heritage Month, which, has its own political issues within that. But love to know how you guys feel about it.
Every day is Indigenous and Latino month.
Word up,
Day.
word up,
Aquí.
every day.
Every day is Raza Day for me, man. uh, for me, personally, it's just, I don't know, it has its mixed feelings because all of a sudden, everyone in the world, in the US, like, oh, look, Latinos exist. I'm like, yeah, we're here every day doing our things, you know? But when it comes to this time of month, it's nice because I see a lot more of like festivities, like, because I'm Chicanos, and so I see a lot of like Mexican Independence Day, cosas así, like a lot of fiestas, a lot of like Mexican flags everywhere, so it's nice to see that. Um, and then also because I'm also indigenous, so like right after Latino Heritage Month is Indigenous Month, so it's like we get to like merge them as well. And because I play my sport that's indigenous, I get to play with those two worlds. I get invited to Latino Heritage Month to do a demonstration, but also get invited to a lot of indigenous um, events, and I get to share that part too. So it's a blessing to have all that. But every day is Indigenous and Latino Heritage Month, like for me. So it's not like, oh, now I'm Latino. It's every day.
I resonate so much with Miguel. Yeah, it's important, como el sabor de Latinidad it's founded on indigenous culture and like Black culture, and it's important to recognize that. If you really go back to um, this culture that we're proud of, like it's founded in indigenous culture, and so um, people of color, right? So for me, it's just like you know, education, and like knowing what is this about. Of course, I also feel like Miguel, like this mixed feelings, because when you say Latino, like you're literally just what it means Latino, right? Where like we are erasing the fact of indigenous and African influence in who we are. And so it's important to acknowledge that, but at the same time, I gotta say, like, of course, there is a different connection I have when I meet someone who is Colombian, who I meet someone who is Brazilian, or from Mexico, right? Uh, because we grew up with like very similar things, but at the same time, it's important to acknowledge, like, we have our own thing going on at the same time, right? We are not like a monolith. So yeah, like I'm so grateful for the community, but being always respectful and knowing that, okay, one thing is Latino, one thing is also Indigenous. So it's a combination of many different things. I also like celebrate Indigenous. I'm invited to many different events in Indigenous Heritage Month. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting. Although I was born here in the US, but I lived most of my life in Mexico. And then when I came back to live here in the US, it's the first time that I was asked the question, like, who are you, or like, where are you from? It's when I realized, like, oh, okay, I'm a Mexican born. That question first came when I was in the US. So it's been a journey for me as well, of identity, realizing that, what makes me different, what makes me getting into that knowledge of identity. And it's been one recent thing that really opened my eyes and that I really liked, was that I saw a simulation of Tenochtitlan that they did recently. And I think that was like my own little celebration of just seeing that. It really opened my mind and my eyes of realizing the amount of information we didn't learn in school, or that we haven't seen, and putting it in a visual way. It really opens your eyes of seeing, yeah, we are all from, those territories, that it was all from indigenous culture, and that's where it all comes from. So yeah, it's really about just learning little by little in this month and in every month.
I'll jump in real quick. I love being brown. I share it every day, whether it's introducing people to food or just chatting them up, of where I'm coming from. In my case, I'm Salvadoran, so I'll talk to them about El Salvador. But I connect with Latino people so much because, like everyone is saying, we're all intertwined and connected in some way, shape, or form. So it's always beautiful to run into people and share, and then have them share, and drink from their well as well. But within my diverse group of friends, whether it's my African American friends, again, or my Asian friends or my white friends, it's a constant conversation. And I think it's beautiful to be able to speak to it every single day, because it's a chance to, like everyone is saying, educate, to educate and have people realize that we didn't just start being Latino. We've been here, we've been here from the jump. So that's always great for me as well.
I just want to add one more thing. They always highlight the fact that, oh, we're immigrants, right? But when you're indigenous, you don't see
There's no
what
such
are
thing.
exactly what are these borders, like you created this border, this imaginary line, and now you're telling me I'm an immigrant. I'm like, okay, you can call me an immigrant, you can call me whatever you want. Like, I know who am I. My ancestors had been like walking these lines up and down, and it just hits different. So yeah, just like Helmer say, like there is this connection that we all have. So I'm very, very grateful I can. I am so grateful for the Latino community, definitely.
Cool, thank you. So I think we have like 5 more minutes. Maybe we can say quickly what our top favorite movie of the summer was, and we're gonna go shotgun. I'm gonna call you, and you're gonna say it real fast. So Sofia, favorite movie of the summer?
Oh my goodness, I was not prepared for it. I guess marketing came to me. Oppenheimer. That's the only thing that I can think about now. I'm so sorry.
But you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Miguel, what about you?
Blue Beetle.
Nice.
It was super Mexican, but it was also very universal in
Cool.
specificity.
Jalmer?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm an Oppenheimer fan too, but I agree with Miguel. Blue Beetle, you gotta go see it, go catch it while it's still in theaters. Everyone run out, you gotta watch it.
Sisa?
Okay, this is a film. This is one of the latest film I saw that it really make me think a lot. It's called Portraits from a Fire. It's from a good friend who's indigenous, and it talks about this generational trauma that people, that we all have, but specifically people from the reservations in Native American communities. So you should check it out.
Cool, thank you. And just side note, I know a few of us have films at the New York Latino International Film Festival that's happening this week in New York City. So if you guys are around, you should go check it out on the websites and come
Your
see
film too.
Yeah, my film was also playing. I had my film Heritage played at La Leaf last year.
Hey, congrats.
Thank you. So I'd love to sidebar with you guys and talk all the truth about what really happened behind the scenes. No, but really, it was a really amazing project, and I learned so much. And I'm really excited that there are programs like this to help tell our indigenous stories, because there's not a lot.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining us for our Revolucion Indigenous Latinidad panel. Don't forget to check out the rest of the schedule of interviews and discussion panels at revolucionhhm.com for complete schedule of events, and follow us on all social media platforms at Todo Wafi and at Revolucion HHM. Guys, I would love for you guys to also tell us where we can follow you and your work, and learn and follow you guys in your journey.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the organizer for this event. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for being an awesome moderator. And yeah, you can all follow my journey in Sisa_Quispe on Instagram and TikTok. Well, I don't post that much on TikTok, but yeah, you can share, you can see my journey there.
Same here. You can just follow my name at Jalmer Caceres on Instagram, Facebook. Just find me. I have, my work listed there and so forth, and I'm very accessible. So any filmmaker looking for advice, ready to chat, please. I'm an open door. I'd love to share.
For me, Instagram at Sofia Ayerdi, only one A in the middle, SOFIAYERDI. And yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian, and the whole team for having us.
Mine is it's Miguel Duran, ITS Miguel Duran. It's pretty easy on Instagram. And like Jalmer said, if any filmmakers out there have any questions or want some advice, hit me up. I'm open to help out anybody who is ready to take on the next step, in their story or beginning. Doesn't matter what section you are in your career, your filmmaking career. And thank you, Sebastian, for this, and Rafa, everybody, for making this possible. Yeah. I'm so happy to share this with all of you.
Cool. A pleasure to meet you all, guys. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, let's definitely all stay in touch. You guys can also follow me at I'm Just Toolmatic on Instagram, or my name across all platforms. And you could check out information on my short film at Heritage Short Film. And yeah, guys, I know as filmmakers, we have to help each other out and just keep pushing, because we're going to get a lot of no's before we get a few yeses, but we should not let that discourage us. And like you guys said, and just echoing again, apply to so many programs, so many different grant writing programs, screenwriting, directing, mentorships, fellowships, shadowing programs as well. Those are really good ways to get us into the door. And all you got to do is Google and just look. Every year they reopen. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you to our Indigenous ancestors for paving the way for us to actually continue their work and continue their history. And thank you, Rafa, and everybody at Revolucion for celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month this month. Thanks, guys.
Desde Nicaragua hasta Costa Rica, con esta canción todo el mundo se identifica. Llamen a los chilenos y a los cubanos, llamen a Puerto Rico y a los mexicanos, que ya se armó la rumba. Desde Panamá hasta Ecuador, vámonos a Perú y luego hasta Salvador. Que se escuche en Brasil y Argentina. Yo quiero un grito de mi gente latina y levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera.
That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.